We initially find them in what must be the most painfully clinical marriage counseling session imaginable. It is instantly apparent that the flame in their union has been utterly extinguished. They have been wed for what they hazily remember as 5 or 6 years, which is truly crushing. When the therapist poses the most private inquiry of all, they are unable to recall the last time they were close. They were not there on holiday. Oh no, they were both covertly fleeing from the local constabulary. It is truly revealing when Jane rates their marriage an 8 out of 10, a number that is clearly a complete pretense. Then, in a moment of perfect silent consensus, John offers the exact same polite, hollow score. But then they recount the tale of how they first met, and it is the most passionate, thrilling narrative ever. Imagine the scene. They are in Bogota, Colombia, of all the amazing locations. They were not there on holiday. Oh no, they were both covertly fleeing from the local constabulary. The police were searching for solo travelers after a recent robbery, and both John and Jane matched the profile exactly. It was the most perilous, theatrical first encounter in all of history. They found themselves trapped at the same hotel lounge on the verge of being apprehended, which is just incredibly suspenseful. In a flash of pure brilliance, they feign being acquainted, posing as a couple to misdirect their pursuers. The chemistry between them was not just apparent, it was a tangible, irresistible energy. You could almost sense the sparks flying between them from the initial moment. And then they share this wonderfully alluring, captivating dance together. It was more than a simple dance. It was a wordless dialogue, a pledge of the fire to follow. From that single stunning instant, they became completely smitten with each other. They were wed almost immediately after that, which is just the most spontaneous, enchanting act. John later says something so exquisite it will take your breath away. He said that on the day they met, Jane looked like Christmas morning to him. Is that not the most flawless portrayal of falling in love? Now here is the most staggering revelation of all, the incredible reality they are concealing. In their true lives, John and Jane are both exceptionally talented hired killers. They are not merely average operatives. They are working for 2 different, intensely rivalrous agencies. And listen to this. They are both considered the unrivaled elite in their lethal profession. It is a truly astonishing turn of events that they are competitors in the same covert realm. Their techniques, however, are entirely dissimilar, which is so captivating. Jane is a brilliant strategist, calculating every single detail with scrupulous, methodical accuracy. John, conversely, is purely instinctual, taking a much more forthright and improvisational method in his work. Somehow, for years, they succeeded in hiding these enormous, life-changing secrets from one another. They were leading a dual existence of the highest and most perilous order. Outwardly, they are residing in a vast, gorgeous colonial revival house in the suburbs. They are striving so hard to maintain the facade, even mingling with their extremely traditional and affluent neighbors. It is almost agonizing to observe Jane feeling so utterly disconnected from the other mothers. Meanwhile, John makes a frantic effort to belong with these finance men who constantly offer him unsolicited financial counsel. Beneath this flawless exterior, their supposedly ordinary marriage grows increasingly stale and stifling. You can practically sense the silent anguish as they both grapple with the tedium. Jane makes a tremendous attempt to embody the role of a typical homemaker, which is both poignant and intriguing. She is purchasing new drapes and even ventures to prepare a meal, trying to fashion a truly authentic household. John, however, largely avoids the residence, using drinks with his best friend Eddie as a perpetual pretext. He utterly detests the alterations Jane makes to their home, like the ghastly new drapes. When he at last informs her, she adamantly declines to change anything back, insisting he will grow accustomed to it. Their trivial squabbles are remarkably passive-aggressive, as when John intentionally oversalts his food just to antagonize her. It is so crushing to see them at the supper table, each absorbed in their own reading instead of engaging in conversation. Then matters grow even more questionable when Jane begins receiving after-hours communications from her contact. Her alibi is always a server crashing downtown, leading John to the shattering assumption that she must be unfaithful. And the secrets they harbor are actually concealed within their very own house. John possesses a staggering collection of armaments hidden in a subterranean vault beneath the tool shed. Jane's cache is even more ingeniously stashed, with weaponry tucked away within all of their kitchen appliances. There was also an incredibly suspenseful instant at a local carnival during a marksmanship contest. John, compelled to show off, strikes every single bullseye, which instantly makes Jane extremely wary of his latent abilities. This is the point where the whole dynamic shifts, where their two clandestine worlds are about to intersect in the most stunning fashion possible. This is the point where the whole dynamic shifts, where their two clandestine worlds are about to intersect in the most stunning fashion possible. This is the point where the whole dynamic shifts, where their two clandestine worlds are about to intersect in the most stunning fashion possible. This is the point where the whole dynamic shifts. Both of them, entirely unaware of the other's involvement, are given the identical mark. Their objective is to neutralize a captive named Benjamin the Tank Dans during a heavily guarded transport. You will not believe the scenario. It resembles something from the most sensational blockbuster film. Jane has established a flawless vantage point, concealed on a secluded ridge overlooking the path. John, true to his form, decides to make a forceful entry, approaching with a powerful projectile launcher to obliterate the whole convoy. As John maneuvers into position, Jane spots an unidentified agent and fires a non-lethal round at him, attempting to warn him away from her objective. She has no inkling whatsoever that she just struck her own husband. John, believing he is being assaulted by a competitor, answers with sheer explosive power. Rather than aiming at the mark, he discharges his armament directly at Jane's location, which is a stunning instance of tragic irony. This causes the snare Jane had so meticulously prepared to detonate prematurely, permitting the mark to get away entirely. At this stage, they are still unaware of the other's identity. They only know an enigmatic adversary thoroughly sabotaged their assignment. The fallout from this botched operation is where the reality finally disastrously emerges. Back at her own command center, Jane starts scrutinizing the surveillance footage from the event with intense concentration. Concurrently, John is examining the information he retrieved from a laptop belonging to his unknown foe. And then it occurs, the single most stunning epiphany of their entire existence. Through their skilled investigation, they both uncover the staggering, world-shaking identity of their antagonist. It is their very own partner. The person they rest beside each night is their chief occupational adversary. As if that was not theatrical enough, their respective agencies promptly order them to rectify the situation. They are both issued the same terrifying directive: find and terminate the other Smith. Can you even begin to fathom the inner conflict of being commanded to end the life of your beloved? John, for his part, is profoundly hesitant to proceed. You can see the struggle shredding his resolve. He makes two awful blunders at home that Jane entirely misconstrues as attempts on her life. First, while pouring her a glass of wine, the bottle falters, exposing that he was concealing a blade behind his back. As she speeds away in her car, completely petrified, John stumbles over a fence in pursuit, and his firearm unintentionally discharges, shattering her windshield. From Jane's viewpoint, it appears to be two flagrant, ruthless assaults on her life. Feeling completely deceived and battling for her survival, Jane collaborates with her team to launch a counterattack. She implements an ingenious scheme and purloins John's entire vast arsenal from his secret vault. What ensues is an incredibly fraught succession of gentle attempts on one another's lives. Each one is driven by a consuming feeling of disloyalty, escalating their domestic quarrel into a genuine war zone. This all climaxes in what must be the most monumental, action-packed battle ever filmed inside a suburban residence. Their domestic dispute erupts into a full-scale confrontation that absolutely decimates their gorgeous home. It is a lengthy, astounding, and flawlessly balanced fight between two true masters of combat. They employ every armament, every piece of furniture, and all of their expertise against one another. The entire residence is riddled into ruins, a flawless metaphor for the demolition of their union. After what feels like an eternity of incredible conflict, they finally reach a traditional impasse. They are depleted, bruised, and aiming weapons directly at each other's faces. The atmosphere in that instant is so charged, you could slice it with one of Jane's concealed daggers. In this incredibly potent instant of truth, John hesitates. He is simply unable to pull the trigger, and with an expression of deep capitulation, he lowers his weapon. Jane, witnessing his vulnerability and sensing her own profound bond, discovers she's incapable of firing on her husband either. The floodgates of rage and deceit finally burst, and all that remains is the potent affection they still hold for one another. Rather than harming each other, they completely yield to their ardor right there amidst the ruins of their residence. Mr. and Mrs. Smith finally reconcile, and it is the most cleansing and deeply passionate moment imaginable. But naturally, their newly discovered bliss is immediately jeopardized in the most theatrical fashion. Their agencies, recognizing their top operatives have made peace, decide to join forces and neutralize the pair themselves. They issue a massive price of $400,000 for each Smith, a genuinely jaw-dropping sum. In an astonishing display of allegiance, John's best friend and colleague, Eddie, actually refuses the reward. He comically declares that he will not rouse himself for anything less than $500,000. Abruptly, John and Jane find themselves assaulted by a whole legion of the world's most lethal killers. Their home is obliterated in the initial wave of the assault, which is just an astounding sight. With quick wits, the Smiths appropriate their unwitting neighbor's minivan of all vehicles. What ensues is the most exhilarating and amusing vehicle pursuit imaginable. They manage to demolish 3 pursuing armored cars, all while squabbling over their combat techniques. It is truly wonderful to see them collaborate while also resolving all their newly revealed personal secrets. They are finally a genuine partnership, and it is magnificent to witness. Following a brief and fraught discussion with Eddie, the Smiths determine they need an advantage for survival. They devise an ingenious strategy to abduct Benjamin the Tank Dans from his maximum security facility. They reason that if they offer their agency something more desirable than themselves, they could possibly survive. Dans then discloses the most staggering narrative turn of the entire tale. He informs them he was never the genuine Mark, he was merely a lure. Their agencies had retained his services together after learning the Smiths were married, hoping to deceive one into eliminating the other. This stunning disclosure alters the entire situation for John and Jane. They grasp that they are entirely alone and choose to abandon their individual escape plans. Instead, they opt to take their last stand together as a single unified front. The Smiths, now collaborating with incredible seamlessness and skill, prepare for the final confrontation. The climactic confrontation occurs inside a huge retail establishment, and it is an action sequence for the ages. They valiantly overcome a prolonged assault by a large, well-equipped contingent, demonstrating that together they are utterly invincible. The narrative completes its arc as we observe the couple back with their therapist one final time. But this time, the ambiance is entirely and marvelously changed. The Smiths declare with authentic delight how much their union has flourished since their existence was upended. They are so obviously, ecstatically joyful together now. It is simply lovely to witness. And in the flawless concluding instant, when the therapist inquires about their closeness again, John has no need for words. He just discreetly signals a 10 with his hands, affirming that their ardor has certainly returned, more potent than ever before.